Good afternoon and welcome to this webinar showcasing the CEC's Taking Stock Online, the North American Pollutant Releases and Transfers Register, PRTR database. My name is Orlando Cabrera Rivera, Program Manager for Air Quality and Pollutant Releases at the Secretariat of the CEC. With me to present the webinar is also Daniel Vallet, Coordinator of the North American PRTR project, and Zakir Jaffrey, GIS Specialist on the project. On the webinar today, we will be reviewing the definition of a PRTR and explain how to use the Taking Stock Online searchable database to explore industrial pollutant releases and transfers, how to generate reports, create maps, and view them using Google Earth, explore pollutant transfers across borders, and analyze PRTR data in the context of geospatial information such as watersheds and population centers. These features of Taking Stock Online can be used by the general public, industry, and governments to track sustainability and to meet challenges of protecting the environment. At the end of the webinar, we will be happy to answer any questions from our online or in-house audience. You can submit your questions via the chat box in the GoToWebinar or send them by email to mnichols@cec.org. That's MNICHOLS @cec.org. Although the webinar is conducted in English, we will take your questions in either English, French, or Spanish. First, what is a PRTR? It is an environmental database or inventory of the sources and associated pollutants released to air, water, and land, injected underground, and or transferred off-site for treatment, recycling, or final disposal. This picture illustrates the types of information that is reported to a PRTR system. This information is collected annually by the PRTR programs in North America. In North America, we have three national PRTR programs. The U.S.'s Toxics Release Inventory, TRI, the Canadian National Pollutant Releases Inventory, NPRI, and in Mexico, the Registro de Emisiones y Transferencia de Contaminantes, RETSE. Close to 35,000 industrial facilities covering about 100 major industrial sectors report to these programs. Each PRTR in North America has different pollutant coverage and reporting requirements. So we do not have information on all toxic substances, just for those subject to PRTR reporting. The Taking Stock Online PRTR data features multi-year data covering more than 500 pollutants. The CEC's North American PRTR project brings together the information from the North American national PRTR systems and adds value by providing analysis and access through the Taking Stock report and Taking Stock Online website. One of the objectives of this project is to increase access to information, awareness and understanding of the sources and handling of pollutants of common concern across North America. This information is fundamental to support decision-making at all levels of society, community, industry, governments, relative to pollution prevention and reduction. And now, Zakir Jaffrey will start the overview of the Taking Stock Online website.
Thanks for the introduction, Orlando. Taking Stock Online is a portal for users to explore information on pollution from industrial facilities across North America. There are three interactive tools that allow users to navigate this information, and they're shown as icons on this page. The blue icon allows users to explore North American PRTR data through customized queries. The green icon allows users to explore cross-border transfers of pollutants, and the orange icon allows users to create summary charts. Now we'll click on the blue icon to begin. In the left-hand menu on this page, you'll notice links where you can switch between the three main tools I just mentioned, or access other pertinent information, such as links to the most recent Taking Stock report and other ongoing activities of the project. In the report type box at the top, you can select between any of the 5 report types to view the data: by facility, by industry sector, by country, by state, province, or territory, or by pollutant. For the first 4 report types, you can click on Ungroup by Pollutant at the bottom. This allows you to see individual pollutant records for every facility, sector, country, or state, province, territory value, depending on your report type selection. For a pollutant report, you can also have the option of getting toxicity information on certain pollutants released to air or water through the Toxicity Equivalency Potential Scores, or TEPs. You'll notice a small icon at the bottom of the report type box. These little blue information icons are a new feature that we've added to the interface. They provide important background information to help you use and understand the data. If you click on the TEP icon, you get information on what TEPs are, who developed them, and other external links. After you've selected the report type you want, you can select parameters from 5 variables. You can select the year or years of data you wish to query. For now, let's select 2010. Next, you can select a location of interest. Here, you can choose to view data for all of North America, individual countries, or by state, province, or territory. Let's click on Canada and Mexico. The next section allows users to select from 1 or more individual pollutants or from 4 categories of pollutants of special concern. These categories are developmental or reproductive toxins, known or suspected carcinogens, metals, and persistent bioaccumulative and toxic compounds. Because the 3 PRTR programs have different lists of reportable pollutants, you can also click on the box at the top of the pollutant section to select only those pollutants that are common to the countries you've selected. For our current selection, notice that 219 pollutants were reported in Mexico and Canada. But if you click on the checkbox, you'll see that only 53 pollutants are commonly reported to both countries. The next variable allows you to select from a drop-down list of industry sectors. The sectors are classified according to the North American Industry Classification System codes, or NAICS, with 5-digit codes being the most detailed and 3-digit ones being the most general. Now finally, you can select 1 or more release and transfer types if you wish. Then, you can click on Submit to run your query. If you want more information before starting your search, you can click on the Wizard tab at the top of the page, where you'll get step-by-step instructions on the query selection process. Now, we've developed a few scenarios to demonstrate the Taking Stock Online tools. In the first scenario, an NGO working to protect the Columbia River watershed is interested in knowing about the pollutions affecting it. The watershed is a major shared Canada-US ecosystem, which we looked at in our latest Taking Stock report. The NGO is fairly certain that facilities in Canada and the United States are discharging pollutants into the Columbia River. We've preloaded the Columbia River and Columbia River watershed into Google Earth. These data have been retrieved from the CEC's North American Environmental Atlas, which hosts a wide array of other geospatial datasets that could be relevant to PRTR analyses, including population density, protected areas, and priority conservation areas. Now, notice the watershed in pale green and the location of the Columbia River therein. The watershed crosses into 2 Canadian provinces and 6 U.S. states. We'll use this information to create and run a query. So we'll go back to the Taking Stock Online query tool. In this case, we'll select a pollutant report, and we'll select 2010 if we want to look at the latest data. And we'll select the provinces and states that border the Columbia River watershed. We've already selected the provinces of British Columbia and Alberta, and the states of Idaho, Montana, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, and Wyoming. We'll leave all pollutants in all sectors selected in the corresponding boxes, and then we'll select releases to water, and then click Submit. At the top of your results page, you'll first notice a summary of your query showing the parameters we've selected for each variable. Just below this is our resulting table of pollutants. You can rank the top pollutants by volume by clicking on the on-site surface water discharge column. You'll see nitric acid and nitrate compounds were released in largest proportions. Altogether, facilities reported on 212 pollutants released to water in this area. We can open up the table to view more rows by clicking on the page size drop-down below the table. Here, we'll select 25. Some of the rows have the symbols for the categories of pollutants of special concern just adjacent to the pollutant name. For instance, you'll notice a C for carcinogens and an M for metals. If we want to know about their toxicity, we can click on the Show Hide Columns box. Here, you can add or remove columns for release and transfer types, or click open columns containing other information. So we'll click on the TEP box at the top right to show risk scores available for certain pollutants released to water. We see two new columns appear with TEP scores, one for cancer and the other for non-cancer. The non-cancer scores refer to pollutants that, for example, can cause developmental or reproductive effects. If we rank by non-cancer risk score, we see dioxins and furans, copper, and mercury at the top of the list. All three of these pollutants have very high TEP scores in the billions compared to their total release volumes. Mercury released 154 kilos and is in all four of our categories of special concern. If we want to see which facilities reported releases of mercury to water in this region, we can click on mercury to drill into the data. You'll first notice the inset map showing the locations of the facilities that appear in the results table just below. If you scroll down further, you'll see that the page also has details by state, province, territory, by sector, and by categories of pollutants of special concern. If we scroll back to the top, we can sort by descending release amounts in the facility table to see the top facilities contributing to mercury releases. Notice that the top 10 facilities out of the 204 were responsible for a majority of the 154 kilos of mercury released. Also, if you hover over the small image next to each facility name, you'll see a breakdown of all the facilities' releases and transfers. We can also click the Show Hide Table Columns button and click the NAICS selection box to show the sectors of the reporting facilities. For instance, the first facility is in the paper manufacturing sector. Then, we can export our results to a KMZ file to display in Google Earth by clicking the Export Report button under the table of facilities. We'll select Export KMZ and On-Site Surface Water Discharges. And we'll unclick the Include Values of Zero box to display only the facilities that actually released amounts of mercury to water. As the file downloads, note that the data will appear with the Columbia River watershed and river data we previously viewed. Notice how specific facilities fall within the bounds of the Columbia River watershed. We can click on Facility Dot to show additional facility information. For example, if we click on the dot very close to the US-Canada border, we'll get information on the facility, which we know from Taking Stock Online to be a lead smelting plant. This facility reported releases of 21 kilos of mercury to water in 2010. You'll also notice a link to the MPRI facility report. So this scenario shows how you can explore PRTR data and view them in various ways, in tabular form or spatially, in this case using the watersheds layer from the CEC's North American Atlas. Although in this example we highlight the potential use of this data by an NGO, note that this type of query could also be used by a public agency responsible for protecting the watershed or a facility within the watershed looking at pollution reduction. Now we'll go back to the Taking Stock webpage, and Danielle will walk us through the second scenario.
In the second scenario we've developed, the U.S. EPA is considering expanding the U.S. PRTR, the Toxics Release Inventory, to include additional industrial sectors, and would like to know about the top reporting sectors in Canada. So for this scenario, we'll showcase our Summary Charts tool. The query types in the Summary Charts tool allow you to view PRTR data by the top 10 industries, top 25 pollutants, top 15 pollutants by cancer or by non-cancer TEP score, or by industry sector profile. So depending on the query that you select, you have the choice of different variables, including a pie or column chart, a reporting year, one or more countries, or for North America, a release or transfer type, or a specific industry sector. So for this scenario, we could select a top 10 industries query. We can choose a pie chart. And if we want the most recent data available, we can choose 2010. And we'll select Canada. And for now, we can keep our selection to total releases and transfers. Then, to get a greater level of detail about the reporting industrial activities, we can click on the 5-digit NAICS code. And then we click on Submit. So this chart shows the top 10 reporting sectors in Canada for 2010. The large wedge in dark red shows the oil and gas extraction sector, which reported 39% of the total, which is the equivalent of 974 million kilograms in releases and transfers. The other top reporting sectors include a few mining subsectors, public sewage treatment facilities, and so on. So oil and gas extraction facilities are not subject to reporting under the US TRI at the moment. So EPA would probably be interested in knowing what this sector reports to the Canadian NPRI. So we can simply click on the pie wedge for oil and gas extraction to drill down into the data for that sector. In the first summary table that you see, we have the list of reporting facilities. They're also shown in the inset map. We see that a total of 144 facilities reported. So we can expand the table to show up to 100 of them. And we can also sort by the total amount column to see the largest reporters. A majority of these reporters are gas processing plants and oil sands facilities located in the provinces of British Columbia and Alberta. We can also scroll down the page to look at the other summary tables. For instance, we see that reporting was in a total of 7 provinces or territories in Canada. We also see the total amount reported by that sector in 2010. And we see the breakdown by our 4 pollutant types, for instance, known or suspected carcinogens. Then we can also see the specific pollutants reported by the sector. So the table shows that a total of 67 pollutants were reported, and we can expand this list. We can also sort the list to see which pollutants were reported in largest proportions. So in this case, we see large amounts of hydrogen sulfide, total reduced sulfur, as well as methanol, manganese, and a number of others. Now, this column shows us the total amounts of each pollutant reported, but we might want to see how those pollutants were managed. For instance, were they released or transferred, and how? So we can click on the Show Hide table columns over the pollutant list and either choose specific release or transfer types or simply click on the All checkbox, which will give us all of our release and transfer types. So this shows us the ways in which each of these pollutants was handled. If we want to see, for instance, which pollutants were injected underground, which is a common management method by this sector, we can click on that column and we'll see that 16 pollutants were injected underground. You can also see the other ways that these same pollutants were released or transferred. And finally, for further analyses, you can use the export function, the button at the bottom of this table, to export the table to Excel. So this information on the pollutants generated by the oil and gas extraction sector in Canada can be useful to the EPA in its analyses. The same thing can also be used by Mexico's RETSU program or any other regional, national, or subnational PRTR systems wishing to compare their data with other programs. This type of query can also be used by an industry association or a parent company that would like to know about the pollution management activities of its member facilities, for instance, for its annual sustainability report. And now Orlando will present a scenario using Taking Stock Online's cross-border transfers tool.
In the third and last scenario we will present today, a Mexican citizen wants to know about the types of pollutants being transferred every year from facilities in the United States to Mexico. As you can see, the user interface for cross-border transfers data is similar to that of the other modules in Taking Stock Online. Cross-border data are available only as of 2006. That's just one difference in the user interface. For this scenario, we will select all years, 2006 through 2010, and then the United States as the source country. If we wanted to know, for example, about the metals transferred from the U.S. to Mexico, we can click on metals for the pollutant type. In this case, we can leave the industry sector selection to all industries and the transfer selection to total cross-border transfers for now. Then we click Submit. The results page shows that 21 countries received transfers of metals from U.S. facilities. If we sort the records by clicking on the 2010 column, we notice Mexico is at the top of this list. We can click on the country name to see the data for Mexico. The first table shows a breakdown by recipient facility. And you can notice too that the recipient facilities are shown on the map in the upper right corner of your screen. If we scroll down the page, we can see the list of recipient states in Mexico, the total for all metals transfers to Mexico in each year. And we can also see the list of industry sectors of sending facilities in the United States. And finally, the list of specific metals transfers to Mexico by U.S. facilities. We can click on the most recent year, 2010, if we want to see which metals were transferred in largest proportions. We see that zinc, manganese, lead, and copper compounds were transferred to Mexico in large amounts, and how these amounts change over the years. If we want to know about the Mexican facilities that received these transfers, we can go back up to our facilities table and sort the facilities, for instance, by 2010 amount. We see that Zinc Nacional in the state of Nuevo León in Mexico is the main recipient of these transfers. To see the types of transfers to Mexican facilities, we can go to Show High Table Columns and click on the three summary columns. We see that almost all of these transfers were to recycling. If we want, we can also click on Zinc Nacional to see the source facilities that transfer metals to Zinc Nacional. And if we scroll down the page, we can also see that these U.S. facilities are primary metal manufacturers. That's from the sector report. And we can see that zinc compounds were the top pollutant transfer by these facilities to Zinc Nacional. So Zinc Nacional uses the zinc waste sent from U.S. primary metals manufacturing facilities as a raw material for the production of other zinc compounds. As you can see from this and the other examples presented during this webinar, the information on Taking Stock Online also helps in providing context to the PRTR data related to potential environmental impacts and pollutant management practices. Now we would like to thank you for your attention and hope that through this webinar you have a better understanding of the depth of information available through Taking Stock Online and how to use the various tools that we have developed. We hope that you will take the time to further explore Taking Stock Online. You will notice other links on the table of contents of Taking Stock Online, including a link to using and understanding Taking Stock. This page provides users with important background information, especially the key differences between the three PRTRs in North America. We will be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time. You can submit your questions via the chat box in GoToWebinar or send them by email to mnichols@cec.org. And again, you can submit your questions in either English, Spanish, or French. Thank you.